Good afternoon. Southwest Florida, beautiful days. Sarasota, Bradenton, Clearwater, Tampa, St. Petersburg, Oldsmar. Today, we have a great guest on Sekou Radio. If you're just joining us, Dr. John James Rowsey. His resume is so heavy, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to let him talk to or tell us about it. Dr. Rowsey, welcome to Sekou Radio. And the subject today is the importance of the human eye, of the eye, our eye. You specialize in eye. You've been doing eyes surgery. You've been an eye doctor for so many years. Please introduce yourself to Sekou Radio listener.
I'm Dr. Jim Rowsey. I work at St. Michael's Eye and Laser Institute in Largo, Florida, and I live in a condominium that overlooks the Gulf of Mexico on the one side and the Intercoastal Waterway on the east side, and I have 24 sailboats out looking out the window now, where I'm not seeing patients today. But I have enjoyed teaching ophthalmology for the last 50 years, teaching eye surgery, and I still teach and do eye surgery on difficult cases. But John Michaelos and Louis Michaelos, his son, are in charge of the eye center right now, and it's really fun to work with them. I trained John Michaelos about 20 years ago to do eye surgery, and he has been such an excellent surgeon. Guess who I had do my own cataract surgery? My sister's, my daughter's eye surgery. I had John Michaelos do it all, so it's really quite a treat. I am enjoying patient care and problem solving and research in eye diseases for the last 50 years. I've retired a couple of times, but I missed the Sherlock Holmes of patient problem solving. So I've gone back to teaching the residents in Miami that come up and see us, and also online with the Zoom meetings that are possible these days. I went to George Washington University undergraduate school in 1961 to 1964, and then the George Washington University Medical School in 1965 through 68, and graduated there and went to an internship at Henry Ford Hospital in Detroit, Michigan, which is cold, in 1969. And in 1971 to 1973, I had the joy of being in the Navy, assigned to the Marine Corps in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And I spent 6 months in Cuba. At that time, had learned to scuba dive and taught sailing and had a lot of fun in the service. I learned the nice thing about being a doctor in the Navy, assigned to the Marine Corps, is the doctors are the safest people in the Marine Corps, because the Marine Corps protects very well their doctors and their own men. I went back to Henry Ford Hospital in 1971 and did my residency in ophthalmology. And then I stayed on the staff at Henry Ford Hospital for 2 years. And in 1976, I had the great joy of being invited to go down and help build an eye institute in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, called the McGee Eye Institute. And Oklahoma is a wonderful place to live, but they still have snow like Detroit. And so I pray that the Lord would set his place that did not have as much snow. And in 1991, they called and asked me to come and rebuild the USF Eye Institute in Tampa. And so I brought my 4 daughters, 4 dogs, and 4 grandparents all to Tampa with me in 1991. And it was a treat to come and do research in Tampa at University of South Florida. A great campus, a great research center in the Florida and in the country, really. So I've enjoyed myself. I do what are called corneal transplants and teach that eye surgery. So I've had a lot of fun doing that over the years, and I've been doing essentially the same thing, teaching eye surgery and doing that kind of eye surgery for the last 50 years. How's that for an introduction?
Wow. That's, you can't have better than that. 50 years of service. God bless you. Thank you for all you've done. Now, doctor, after 50 years of teaching, how would you define, what is the definition of the eye?
Well, for me, and of course, I never get invited back to give this lecture but once, and that is that the eye is the most important organ of the body. It receives information that has more nerves going to and from your eye than almost 30% of your body's nerves go to and from your eye. And so your body is designed, I tease other physicians, to carry your eyes around. You notice if your heart stops, your eyes close. So people come and resuscitate you, and all of a sudden your eyes open again when your heart starts. And your bones are long and tall because they keep your eyes way up off the floor so you see way over the horizon. If you didn't have any bones, you'd be like an amoeba crawling along the floor. So you need to have bones. So the whole body is designed to carry the eyes around. That's my prejudice. That's my insight. But obviously other subspecialties in medicine feel that they have something to contribute, but it's all to contribute to the health and joy of your eye, which receives information. In fact, I was going to go into cardiology in 1969 at Stanford and have a fellowship there in internal medicine. And I took a rotation in ophthalmology from Phil Hesburgh, a very great and well-known ophthalmologist who designed a tree find to actually do corneal transplantation. And Phil Hesburgh asked me why I wanted to take a rotation in ophthalmology. I said, it's because there's no night call in ophthalmology. He says, well, you're planning on going to ophthalmology, aren't you? I said, absolutely not. I'm planning on going into cardiology. He says, if you rotate in ophthalmology with me, you're going to go in to ophthalmology. And so I rotated with him for 2 weeks, and after 2 weeks of my month rotation, he did a corneal transplant on this elderly lady, about 80. I'm almost as old now as she was, and she had been blind for a long time. And he went into her, and I saw this surgery, fascinating surgery, done with a suture that's about 1/3 the diameter of a human hair. You can't even see the suture if you wave it around in the air. And he was doing the surgery. You can only see the suture if you look through the operating microscope. And so he did this surgery. It was mind-boggling how beautiful it was. And he goes into this lady's room. Let's call her Mrs. Brown. Mrs. Brown, Dr. Hesburgh is here. Let's see how your eye is doing. And she hasn't seen for a decade or so. And he takes off her patch. And he puts some drops in her eye so she can open her eye, doesn't have any discomfort. And she says, is that you, Dr. Hesburgh? Yes, Mrs. Brown, Dr. Hesburgh here. And she says, she looks at him with her new eye, and she says, Dr. Hesburgh, you're much too young to be doing eye surgery. It was that day I decided that if she could see that well, the next day after eye surgery, I changed my subspecialty in one day. just seeing that interaction between a grateful patient and a doctor who is really dedicated to her seeing again. It was a total treat to observe that. So 2 more weeks of that rotation, I said, Dr. Hesberg, I'd like to go into ophthalmology. He said, I told you so. And he's never let me forget that in fact, I had denied the field of ophthalmology in 1969, and all of a sudden I was coming back to him to be trained, and we've been fast friends ever since. So he is a wonderful, wonderful teacher and leader in ophthalmology in Michigan. So that is, the eye is fascinating. It's like a camera. The lens on the front of the camera is the cornea, and the retina in the back of the camera is like the film in the camera. So all of those have to line up perfectly to give you a good image that's carried to the back of your head through the nerve supply to the back of your brain. And, of course, the Lord has put the image in the back of your head so that if you bump the front of your head, you don't hurt your vision. So it's put way back there where it's safe. You can have somebody punch you in the head and your vision will still be okay.
Right.
What can I share with you about the eye and its importance? Did you want to go through any of the anatomy of the eye or the diseases of the eye or any of those areas that might be helpful?
You define it so well. We're going to go into... You gave us a very good definition of the eye there. I wanted to ask you about you staying. You did Detroit in 1968, North Carolina, and Guantanamo Bay. Because when you speak to a lot of young people, they don't know what's the North Carolina Camp Lejeune is. They don't know what Guantanamo Bay is. Can you elaborate a little bit on you staying from Detroit to Guantanamo to Camp Lejeune?
Yes, Camp Lejeune was a Marine base training Marines for Vietnam. And the Marines had the beach there in Guantanamo, in Camp Lejeune. It's right on the coast, and it's a beautiful base. They have thousands of people there on the base. And being in the military was a nice chance to relax a little bit because I had finished medical school and an internship. But the entire base is filled with Marines except for the officers assigned from the Navy, who are the doctors. And so it was a very nice opportunity to have my family there. And I had my first daughter when I was in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And they ask when you're in North Carolina and you're only 2 years in the service, you take a rotation overseas somewhere. Right. And so they asked if anyone wanted to go to Guantanamo, and I raised my hand. And I said, I would like to go to Guantanamo. He said, do you know where it is? I said, no. I said, why did you raise your hand? I said, because I would like to take this rotation, and I don't care where it is. I don't want to come back to North Carolina because I want to be with my daughter when she's born. So that's over 6 months away. It's time for me to go away and come back before my first daughter is born. And so I went to Guantanamo, and Guantanamo at that time was about 3,000 men and women, had a hospital there, had a very small jail facility. Guantanamo's in Cuba.
Right.
It's right on the ocean itself. Right. So the battleships and carriers can come into that bay. But it's a strategic area, so we can watch over and take care of